We're here for a week, so we thought we'd drive out to the Grand Canyon, stop in Vegas, and then see the Golden Gate Bridge. They landed on the East Coast. In Thailand, berating locals for eating Italian food because Thai food is so tasty. Thai people eat Thai food every day. Going out for Italian is like you going out for Thai food in your home country. Holy sant, I live in Hawaii, and one time a tourist asked about turning the waterfalls off to clean them. I wish I was making this up. I once heard a US tourist speaking to someone back home about how London was okay, but things were kind of old looking. Was asked if we had electricity. Was told we don't have central heating in our houses. Was told, I just love your queen. I'm Irish. There were a couple of tourists who decided that it would be a good idea to stand directly in the path of the Queen's Guard to take a selfie with them. Those guys don't stop for anyone. They will walk through you if they have to. I've seen so many videos of it happening online, but I never thought I'd get to see it with my own eyes. Man, the look on their faces when they got yelled at to move out the way. It was like a weird mixture of terror and offense, like they completely expected them to stop and pose or something. It always baffles me that people seem to forget that they are actual soldiers, and not just some guys playing dress-up for the sake of tourists. I love this part of England. While in a store in Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, heard an American couple behind me be completely outraged that the Italian restaurant we were in would not accept them to pay in dollars. Wait, you don't take American dollars? With a huge emphasis on American. It was pretty funny how dumb those people were. An American couple on holiday in the same hotel as my mom told her they'd visited England and seen the Eiffel Tower. She told them that was in France, and they condescending said, "No ma'am, it's in London." She agreed it must be, and walked off. It wasn't about the country exactly, but I was working in a hotel reception in a Mexican beach, and an American woman told me that the water of the sea was very hot. If I could do something, I thought, okay, maybe I didn't understand correctly. Can you speak slower? And she repeat the same question. Of course I did a Mayan dance, and the water was colder afterwards. It doesn't look anything like Emily in Paris. Yeah, no sa. Foreigners coming to India and speaking Hindi in non-Hindi states. Half of India doesn't speak Hindi. Had a dude come up here to Canada. We are talking business and whatnot, then he says, "Too bad you guys are completely communist now." Like, dude, I don't think you even know what that means. Where do you keep the Vikings? An American tourist visiting Denmark left him very confused and a little disappointed by telling him the truth about Vikings and that we did in fact not have reservations or anything. That Norway is the capital of Sweden. When my British friend said he didn't want to visit me in Seattle, unless he also had time to visit New York, had to explain to him that's like saying you can't visit Dublin if you can't also make time for Istanbul. I was up in Edinburgh visiting a friend who was studying for her master's degree there. We decided to do some touristy stuff and went to the castle and did one of the guided tours. In our group were two middle-aged American women. I think they said they were from Tennessee. From Edinburgh Castle, you can see quite far, over the Firth of Forth, an estuary, and beyond the river. The women pointed to this and asked the guide, "Hey, is that Ireland?" She thought the Firth of Forth was the Irish Sea, despite clearly not being a sea, there being a bridge spanning it, her being on the opposite coast and facing the wrong direction, and the other bank of the estuary was the Republic of Ireland. I understand maybe not being completely clued up on the geography of a foreign country, but to that extent, it was almost impressive. The tour guide let the question hang for a few seconds before letting out an exasperated, "No." Australian asked me when the igloos would go up and did we have move our work and school into them every year. While in Vancouver, BC, a location in Canada with similar weather to Seattle. Edit. She was very serious. She was a young teen from a small town, visiting on a school trip. Aside from whatever airport she left from, Vancouver was one of her first visits to a city. Bonus. An American asked me, while I was in the States, if I was impressed by the bridges. I was not in a place with any famous bridges. I was in Idaho. So I asked him why he asked. "Because Canada doesn't have any," he replied, in a "this is so obvious" voice. Baffled, I prodded him to continue. He believed that because Canada was frozen, everyone just drove over the perpetually frozen rivers. Just yesterday. I don't want to follow Italy's traffic laws. What's the best way to get away with driving a vehicle I'm not licensed to drive? More funny than offensive. Where's the Parthenon? About 800 miles that way. Everyone here speaks such good English. In London. Also, I've been asked repeatedly what my plans for Thanksgiving are. I've been here 3 days and I haven't heard the British accent yet. Yeah, that's because you've heard several. We are a multitude of accents and dialects, like every other country. There is no one British accent. So, I'll be able to make it to New York in a few hours from here. Ma'am, you're in Southern California. You're talking about driving to New York. That is the complete opposite side of the country, and it is a long way from here. You have no concept of the scale of this country. You're going to be really upset when it takes you a good 6 hours to get across Riverside County, let alone the other 5 days, maybe 6 or 7, to drive to New York. No, you cannot get to New York in a few hours without flying. If it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German, some stupid Yank in Germany. I overheard an American woman saying that she was surprised at how well us Australians spoke American, although the accent made it a little hard to understand. Both of these overheard in a souvenir shop in Amsterdam. Cashier. That'll be 30 euros, please. American tourist. What's that in real money? Different. American tourist. What do you mean you don't accept dollars? And not really something anyone has said, but still worth mentioning. Apparently some Americans don't realize they can't just take their firearms with them to Europe. Someone compared Canadian money to Monopoly money, and then asked if we had Monopoly in Canada. I was the tourist. I was told by many concerned co-workers and friends that I shouldn't travel alone as a woman to dangerous Eastern Europe, because I was going to get trafficked or hostled. The dangerous Eastern European country with criminals waiting behind every corner to snatch away Spanish women? Slovenia? I've heard multiple tourists plan to take day trips to places in the US that are on the other side of the country. I also watched some Asian tourists try and get a selfie with a black man, who was just trying to ride the subway in peace. He looked so uncomfortable. An American on tour in Italy asked me why we Australians didn't all know each other. Another American asked me, do I know what a backyard is, and do we have them in Australia? This is coming from the other side, but I'm from the US, and had someone come back from a trip to Italy saying, Italians are stupid. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they don't know how to talk. The way she said it made me think she didn't even know that other languages exist, and so many Italians speak English. My first thought was that nobody wanted to talk to her rather than no one spoke English. I was talking to a lady in a bar in NYC once and told her I grew up in Malaysia, and she genuinely asked me, do you guys use money there or trade stuff? The capital of Malaysia is Singapore. When I was bartending in college, I had an American woman insist Iceland was so safe because everyone was carrying a gun at all times. Like, she didn't just say it once. She kept contradicting and arguing with me after I told her Iceland has insanely strict gun laws compared to the USA, and definitely does not allow everyone to open conceal carry. An American in Australia who asked, do you guys have the same moon down here? Edit. A British friend of mine living in Australia was asked this by a visiting American over 20 years ago. If it was to me, I would have asked, what exactly do you mean? I've only been to the Northern Hemisphere once and can't recall looking at the moon. The explanations given now make perfect sense. Cheers. When a friend from Germany came to visit me in Turkey, the first thing he asked the people here was if we also spoke Arabic and why most women don't wear the hijab. In Finland, we have a thing called jokamiehen oikeus, which means that everyone has a right to walk around any forest, no matter who owns the land, government, or private people or company. We are allowed to swim in the lakes, collect berries, hiking, sleep in tent, and so on, without asking permission as long as we don't do any harm to the nature. But there is a very big rule of kotirauha, which means respecting other people's homes. It is absolutely forbidden to go to anyone's yard or garden, pick apples or berries from garden, go to a beach which is part of someone's yard, and so on. Nowadays, quite a lot of tourists know about jokamiehen oikeus, but they misinterpret it and may come to someone's yard, use their patio furniture, steal berries from garden, and so on. And when tenants try to get them leave, they start to argue. Most absurd one I've heard is tourists coming to ask someone to move their sheep away from their own yard because they wanted their wedding photos taken in their yard and didn't want sheep in the background. They couldn't stop laughing and asked the happily wedded tourists to kindly to get the fuck off. We are happy if you want to enjoy our peaceful forests and swim in our lakes, but please respect people living here. Call everything here by the location name in Lord of the Rings. It was decades ago, folks. Maybe come to New Zealand to learn our culture, including Te Reo Maori. You're not climbing Mount Doom. It's called Ngauruhoe, and it's immensely sacred to the local Iwi tribe. You're in a UNESCO Dual World Heritage Site and our oldest national park. Appreciate the place for all the things it is, not just Peter Jackson's choice of film locations. Whale watching is a huge tourist industry where I live. However, we have strict laws and guidelines for whale viewing to keep from disturbing their transit and feeding habits, as well as to keep viewers safe. Yes, the photos in ads and on websites show the best moments from other tours, but that does not mean or entitle you to having the same experience. I hate tourists getting upset that the whales aren't jumping out of the water for them, and in some cases getting angry or even ask for a refund when the whales don't put on a show. If you want to have them do tricks for you, then go to a country that allows the capture and abuse of marine animals and give them your money instead. If you want to see them undisturbed in their natural habitat, then you can either take a whale tour and hope for the best, or move to where the whales are and spend every day on the water and accumulate experiences. I've been here for 15 years, and on the water most of the summers, and have only seen whales breach a handful of times. But regardless of their activity, it has always been a cool experience seeing them. Tell me everything that's wrong about where I live and how much better it is where they live. We get tons of tourists at the huge national parks in the West. Every year, a couple of tourists wander off the established trails to explore. These parks are larger than many countries. It takes a lot of time and resources and luck to find and rescue them,